Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Anne McCarthy. She's the product marketing manager at Splunk. Anne, how you doing today?
I'm great, James. Thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Anne. We're going to be talking about the role that analysts and customers play in outside-in marketing, which, as we were talking about offline, I'm really excited to dive into this with you. But before we do that, I'd love for you to explain to our listeners what Splunk is, what you guys are all about, and who you serve.
Sure. So Splunk makes software that allows our users to get real-time value from their data. Now that we're in a digital age, we've been hearing about big data for a long time, but now in this digital age, everything that we use is generating data. So our servers, our network, mobile apps, websites, sensors. And so there's just this massive volume of data, and it's in all these different formats. So Splunk allows you to take that data and make sense of it, to search and correlate across it, and to really get insights from it, to bring value to it that can support a number of use cases across IT, security, business analytics, Internet of Things, and a variety of other use cases.
So I want to dive into this topic, Anne, because I know we've got a lot to cover. And before we get into this first idea, I first want to have you kind of define a couple terms that we're going to be using throughout the rest of the interview, just so that maybe folks that aren't as familiar with this idea of outside-in marketing or analysts. Could you define, what is an industry analyst for our listener?
Sure. I think a lot of times people hear the term analyst and they immediately think financial analysts. And so that is one important stakeholder, but the analysts that we're talking about today are industry analysts. And so I think about industry analysts as really the experts in the tech industry. And much as financial analysts provide guidance and counsel around that aspect, around finances, industry analysts provide guidance around technology, and they're the experts on what's going on in the market, what the trends are, and different technologies. And so the goal of analyst relations is to establish a relationship with these influencers in the industry who are talking to our customers or prospective customers, and to make sure that they have a good understanding and hopefully a favorable outlook on what you do as a company, so that they're able to talk knowledgeably and favorably about you to their customers, and also that to use them to understand what's going on in the market and what they see in the landscape.
No, that makes perfect sense. So Anne, this first thing that we're going to talk about is really how do you leverage industry analysts because they are such a strong influencer to both your current customers as well as your prospective customers. What have you found is the best way to leverage those analysts?
Yeah, so I think one of the kind of overarching takeaways about the value of analysts is that even if you're not in an analyst relations role, being mindful of this important stakeholder, because this is where I got my start in my career. And even though I'm in product marketing now, having this perspective into this important influencer was a really good foundation. And so I think the first thing is that a lot of what we see with analysts, the most visible piece of it is around the reports they write. And so that's something that's really visible, but a lot of where the influence is happening is in what you don't see. So the analysts have all these relationships with your customers or prospective customers, and they're talking to them and they're having these really transparent conversations around what their challenges are, what their goals are, any questions they have. And so the way that you want to engage with them is kind of a two-pronged approach. You want to make sure that the analysts have the information and are armed with the latest on what you're doing as a company around your strategy, your roadmap, your releases, so that when they get questions, they're able to answer them accurately and knowledgeably. Now, that's just one small piece of it. The second is, and I think this is where you really get the value, is ensuring that you're having those two-way dialogues so that your communication with them isn't just outbound, but you're hearing from the analysts on what trends are coming up in their inquiries, what they're seeing in the market, what maybe they don't understand about what you're doing or what they want to learn. And you're also getting their feedback on what you're doing as a company, what your messaging is like, what's on your roadmap, so that you can make sure that you're aligned. And I think that's where we've really found the most value.
And so are these industry analysts, do they typically work for, large firms? Are they independent? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think the top firms that most people probably heard of are Gartner, Forrester, IDC, kind of the household names, but there are a lot of smaller firms that may specialize in different areas of technology, or maybe their specialty is in reports or data-driven research. So there's really a number of different analyst firm models, as well as independents who can kind of align to whatever your goals might be as a firm.
Got it. Okay. And so this next point that we're going to talk about, Anne, is around your customers being evangelists. Can you talk to us about that, what that has looked like for you and your time with Splunk?
Sure. So as I mentioned, one of the things that I got in my analyst relations role was recognizing this really important influencer, not just to the AR organization, but across marketing and really across the company. And so in that role, I also got a lot of insight into the importance of customers, not just as we serve them and deliver software to them, but also as a really important influencer for analysts, for other customers, and for prospective customers. And so making sure that we're, again, having this view of really being tuned into what their daily life is, what their challenges are, what their goals are, and making sure that we're orienting ourselves around that. One of the first things that I did when I came on at Splunk was I worked on a customer event out in London. And it was a really powerful event because it was so customer centric, and it was all about connecting customers to each other so that they could share their best practices, use cases they're working on. And it was also an opportunity to learn about the ideas they were coming up with for using technology that we hadn't even thought of. So it was this really kind of mutually beneficial event and opportunity for our customers to learn from one another and from us to be able to learn from them, and then apply that across marketing and everything else we were doing.
That makes sense. Have you been able to do anything like that? And obviously that was an in-person event that you were talking about. Have you seen anything that has produced results similar to that in an online environment?
We've been able to, with some of our customers and analysts who we've developed good relationships with, and I think that's another key thing, is making sure you do have these strong relationships with both the customers and the analysts. We've been able to connect them via email or phone, and also as references. So a lot of the reports that analysts work on, yes, they want to see your demos and they want to hear about your latest features and hear about your success, but what really validates it is hearing from the customer about how they've brought that to life and how they've gotten value from your product. And so that's been another opportunity where we've been able to connect them and just provide a little bit of kind of upfront information about what the customer is doing, and then connect the analyst and customer and let them have a one-on-one conversation.
This last thing that we're going to talk about, Anne, to close out today's interview, we're going to talk about customers and analyst relations, and really how do you create these interactions that leverage both the customer, the analyst, as well as your company. Can you talk to us about how you guys have done that?
Sure. At the outset of working on analyst relations and connecting them with customers, it seemed to me that, this was something that, obviously if an analyst has a good conversation with one of our customers, that's great for us. What I really learned, and it's also good for the analyst, but what I also learned, and this is something that was really powerful, was that these are conversations that have been great all around, because not only has the analyst, again, gotten direct insight into how the customer is using our software and where they've been successful with it, and maybe even where they've had challenges. So they're getting that really authentic, direct feedback. But our customers have benefited from these these interactions as well, because like I mentioned before, these analysts are the experts in the industry. And so this has given the customers an opportunity to connect with these people. And we had one customer that was able to get some guidance. They were looking to broaden adoption across their company. And so the analyst was able to give them some tips and pointers on how to be able to do that. So these have been interactions that have really been a great opportunity and beneficial for all parties involved.
Yeah. So, and then obviously the benefit to you, the company is the feedback that you're getting from both of those parties. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Because obviously having that insight from both the analysts and the customers allows us, those are such important influencers and stakeholders for us, and it allows us to do our job better as marketers and to better serve and enable them to be successful.
Yeah. So it makes perfect sense that you've transitioned into a product marketing role based on kind of having your finger on the pulse of your customers and these analysts. You said as you've kind of grown through the company, those being your prior roles, it makes perfect sense that now you're in a position where you're getting to leverage that insight and put it into the product, in a marketing context. So Anne, is there anything else around this idea that you think our listeners should understand before I let you go today?
I think it's just good to keep in mind that especially as product marketers, sometimes we get so close to the product and to the different features and functionality that having this outlook and just keeping in mind the different stakeholders, the different influencers that you're serving helps you to really make sure that you're best meeting their needs and enabling their success. So just making sure you keep that outside in perspective.
I love it. And this has been fantastic. If there's somebody that wants to connect with you or if they want to learn more about Splunk, what's the best way for them to go about doing both of those things?
Anyone wants to reach out to me, they can find me on LinkedIn, Anne McCarthy. And if you want to learn more about Splunk, you can visit our website, splunk.com.
Awesome, Anne. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic, so I really appreciate it.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.